Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan. Welcome to the live Luke Cage Spoilercast tonight for about an hour. We are going to chat with you about Luke Cage. We finally have all had a chance to sit down and watch it. This is a couple weeks late. We had intended on doing this 2 weeks after Luke Cage came out. It's a whole month now, but here we are. We're ready to chat about it for you. And joining me this evening is Eric Holden.
Luke Cage!
And then there's the Curious Lo.
Hello! On a Sunday night show for the first time in like forever.
Yeah, welcome back. It's good to have you, Lo.
Woo.
And finally, Jackson Rasco.
Sweet Christmas.
Sweet Christmas. So we're going to go ahead and jump straight into it. Of course, Luke Cage, the third of the Netflix Marvel shows, the fourth season of these that we've had so far collectively. This is a show that I was really looking forward to because I thought Mike Coulter just tore it up in Jessica Jones. I was one of the big proponents of him getting his own show. I kept saying, and of course we knew he was going to, but I heard a lot of people say, oh, how could this guy possibly hold his own for his own show? I was like, oh, you guys just wait.
I didn't say that, but I was like, I don't know if he has enough charisma.
And I almost say I told you so, but I told you so. I was really, really impressed with him, of course, in this, and this is a really interesting show. Unlike anything I've ever seen, this is one of those cliche things to say, but this is like dictionary definition of a roller coaster ride, especially emotionally. Especially because of how at least Eric and I felt about the end of it. We'll see what you guys thought. So what we're going to do, as we generally do with the Spoilercast, and by the way, thanks everybody for being here that's watching live. We have a good, healthy-looking audience right now. Thanks for being here, folks. We are going to go ahead and go round robin and find out what everybody thought of this show, beginning with best thing, worst thing. That's how we usually start this. So we'll let you guys just give kind of your general thoughts in terms of what you thought the best thing was and the worst thing was, and kind of your initial takeaway when you first saw it. Let's start with Rasco. Rasco, what was your favorite thing and your least favorite thing overall, collectively, of the 13 episodes when you finished the show?
So for me, while I was watching this, it felt a little bit more like a television show compared to Jessica Jones and Daredevil, and I think that was not that that's a bad thing about those. Those, like, Daredevil season 1 feels like a movie that's just really long, and Jessica Jones is more in that vein as well. This one felt a little bit more broken up to me, and I actually kind of liked that because I felt like the pacing of this was different from Jessica Jones and Daredevil, and that things would happen that you weren't expecting to happen so soon. And it just, not that any of the other Netflix shows for me feel slow, because I don't think that they feel slow at all, but this one felt kind of extra quick paced, which I've actually heard a lot of people say the exact opposite, so maybe I'm just crazy when I say that. If I have to say my least favorite thing about this show, that's going to be really tough. I think that it might be that by the end, I'm not, and this is only because I've seen it once, I'm not quite sold on why Diamondback is so involved with the plot by the ending of the show, and I'm not so... I just don't know if it's too much of a coincidence for him to be this involved at this point in Luke Cage's life. So that's what I would say.
Eric, why don't you go ahead and give us your favorite and least favorite thing?
And a quick rundown like Rasco did?
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. And let me also mention that I don't know if either of you guys had a chance to watch this twice. I wanted to. It was not in the cards. I didn't have a chance to do it even after a couple of extra weeks. It just didn't come together. And Eric and I watched this together. So we've only seen it the one time. So I do want to say that I feel a little bit like I need another watch on this, and so I am sure that some things will be that at least I, for one, speaking for myself, will say some things this evening that I could go back on later on after a second watch. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay. My breakdown of this show is I think the first 6 episodes are probably the strongest and best of all of the Marvel Netflix shows, and I think the back 7 are the weakest of the Marvel Netflix shows, which is not that they're bad, but I don't think they're as good as Jessica Jones or Daredevil. I think, which I'll get to my worst thing, it's Diamondback. I don't think anything about Diamondback makes any sense whatsoever. And the second he's introduced, we start doing a bunch of real easy TV things that the show was smarter than for the first half. I'm going to say best thing. I might go Cottonmouth. I think Cottonmouth is a fascinating character. He's a fascinating villain, and he's played brilliantly.
In the comments here, DC Stranded says best thing is the music and worst thing is the length.
I think the music's brilliant. I think this could have gotten away being a 6-episode show.
I think so too, yeah, or at least being, shorter than it is, or making it, or at least being more deliberate about. Okay, we have kind of broken it up into 2 sections because I feel like that's what they did.
Well, and the music dies off real hard for the second half too.
Yeah,
the music's great for the first half, and then
some of that is because of all the incidental music that you get in the club, which you don't have anymore when Cottonmouth is gone. And you still have some of that because the club is still open, but obviously Diamondback's taste, Mariah's taste, they're different from his. He has a real specific, unique taste in music. I feel like there is a soundtrack that sums up that character. I think you can define that guy. Not articulating who he is in words, but just with melodies. Lo, give us your best thing and worst thing about this show.
Well, coincidentally, my best thing was also the music, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper than that. So for those of you that don't know, I'm a professional hip-hop dancer. I've been dancing since I was 3. I love music, and I love hip-hop music specifically, and just the history. Just in that little thing that I think it's something that maybe not everybody's going to appreciate just because they don't have a background in that type of music. So that's a little more me than necessarily it being an amazing thing. But they had a cameo in every single episode from somebody from the music business. A lot of them were the people that were kept being auditioned for the club. And they had that scene where he met the guy in the convenience store, and there's little cameos in every single episode, which were great. So I really appreciated the fact that they really delved into kind of part of what makes that neighborhood so special. And obviously that was on the surface and that was a lot of the plot, but I think that they did it in a very sincere way, and it could have very easily gone kind of this sort of oh, Harlem is so great kind of a thing, but they did a good job of giving us that real research and everything. And so I really, really appreciated that. My least favorite thing, and I think that this is more just comparing it to the other Netflix shows, because now that we've already had 3 seasons total, going into this, you kind of have these standards now that the fight choreography was not as good as I've come to expect from Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Specifically between Luke Cage and Diamondback, some of that was laughable to me. I was like, this is awful. I can see, I was pointing out as I'm watching it, points where you can see that punches aren't connecting, and it's really slow and lumbering. And part of that is just by nature of the fact that Luke Cage has a very different set of powers than Daredevil does. He's
not fast and fluid.
Yeah. So of course that's going to be a different type, but I just think, especially with the Diamondback fight, the big one at the end, it was just clunky, and I don't know, it didn't land well for me. Maybe that's just me, again, being a dancer. I pick apart fight choreography a lot. It's something that I tend to notice, and so with this, I was very much this is very clunky, and I didn't like it. But I mean, the show was great. That's just one thing that kind of was not amazing to me.
That's great. I did not pick up on choreography issues.
No, the biggest thing that I had was because for the first half we were talking about how great it was.
But I'll be looking for it next time.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, totally cool. I'm glad you brought. I mean, I wouldn't have brought that.
Well, for the first half we were talking about how great it was and how we couldn't find anything wrong with it. I was like, I don't like that. When he bends guns, they're clearly rubber guns. They're really fake-looking rubber guns.
And it's a little unfortunate because we thought 7 episodes in that the only thing Eric would be able to think of when we got to worst thing was the guns look kind of rubbery. And then the back half happens, and Eric, every 10 minutes or so, is going, wait, I don't understand that thing. And I'm like, well, the rubber guns are now not the only thing you can complain about. And I'll be surprised if they come up. they came up. Somebody in the comments, and I didn't know this if this is true, says that Defenders is only going to be 10 episodes long, and says how come Luke Cage couldn't have only been 10 episodes long, and if they're going to start futzing around with the length of these, this would have been the time to do it.
Yeah.
It really feels like we're stretching for time at the end. But it's more complicated than that, and we'll get into all this, because there's also things, mostly with Luke Cage's background with his family, that I feel like is not fleshed out enough that you could have spent some of that real estate dealing more with, because it feels a little bit ethereal, and I don't have a good enough handle on it. I don't mean that we're not told enough, it's just what we're told feels a little bit too generic backstory for this show. So, generically, my favorite thing about the show, until the back half, but it still has this to a degree, is command of narrative. Excuse me. Characters in this show, I'm getting over a cold. The characters in this show feel so super real to me. I have never felt so bad for a dirty cop dying as I did in this show. I've never seen anything like that. That'll stick with me. When we know what he's been doing, and I think that the show does a really good job of making us understand why he goes that far, which is part of why I have issues with some of the Luke Cage family dynamic with Diamondback. That he used to be a really clean-cut cop, and the reasons he got that way, I bought all of that. And so, like when he dies, and when we see, especially the way Misty Knight reacts to it, I really buy that. I feel like she does, and I don't find myself hating that guy, even though he obviously did some really bad things and was a bad dude. That actor was amazing. I expected there to be some kind of maybe not forced drama, but a lot of drama played between her finding out that for all these years she's been working with this guy and he was crooked, and we didn't go to that place, and she still cared about him. It's a really complicated relationship. I love the complexity of all of that. I also love all the street culture, how believable that is, how much I came to love this place with all of its problems. The worst thing is most certainly I'm with Eric. I think is certainly Diamondback, and not just Diamondback as a character. There's some cool stuff in his performance, and there's some thematic and character parallels going on with the brothers versus the brother-sister dynamic we have with Cottonmouth and Mariah, that I think could have been brought more to the forefront. But there's a lot of stuff about him that doesn't make sense. And Eric, you didn't bring this up, but plot armor.
Oh, yeah. He's got plot armor, and Misty Knight, who doesn't have plot armor for the majority of the show, there's twice where there is no reason he doesn't kill her. And the show's better than that. At no other point in the show do I think, like, oh, well, that's convenient that person didn't die. It happens all the time with Diamondback, and then the twice when he doesn't kill Misty Knight.
Let's use this as a springboard and just start with that place, because the big negative thing I'm picking up on with obviously Eric and I feel this way. We got this from Rasco. I want to know if you guys think that killing Cottonmouth when he gets killed off was a misstep. Is that the reason that it starts to kind of feel like it's unraveling in that back half, if you feel like it's doing that? Or were there other places to go with that? Did we just need to make Diamondback feel more believable? What is it more complicated than that, or is it just simply keep Cottonmouth alive and you're okay? What do you think, Rascal?
I actually liked Cottonmouth dying because it did the thing that I always love when shows are going to kill off a character is if you do like the most important episode for that character in the same episode that they die sometimes with their past and revealing things about their past. So I actually liked when Cottonmouth died, and I think that it's really tough because I've only seen it once. But when he died, it felt like it felt shocking because I was not expecting that to happen. But I feel like they never had someone to fully step in and fill his role.
And of course, that's supposed to be Diamondback, and he's supposed to be the guy that's been kind of pulling a lot of strings, not just with what's going on with the current street crime, but with Luke Cage going all the way back. It was the thing I had a tough time buying because he's so manic and it feels kind of nuts and will run into any place and start doing things and doesn't seem remotely worried about his own safety. And then the script kind of backs him up on that and is like, yep, you're gonna. I thought he had superpowers. Till the second to last episode of the season, I thought the man had superpowers. And Eric was expecting superpowered characters.
I theorized as we move forward, given that Luke Cage doesn't have powers, that Cottonmouth would start hiring people with powers. And when Diamondback came in, I'm like, well, surely he either has or is going to get powers, and we don't, and it works until we get to the last 2 episodes where we do the Iron Man thing. We're like, we've told this really interesting story. Oh, but it's a superhero thing, so we have to big superhero fight at the end.
Yeah. And we were a little bit worried that they might go there. You asked that question just as we started watching it, because Daredevil kind of goes to that place at the end of the first season, and some people complained about that.
I thought it worked in Daredevil.
I thought it worked more in that. Yeah, I didn't even think about it until people started saying it. And I was like, well, I guess you could say that's a little bit formulaic, but, you know, it is a thing about, like, that is what the show's about. You know, it is people in vigilantes or a vigilante in a costume. This is a show that starts more subtly than that, which is a weird thing to say considering all the buildings that blow up. I started expecting a building explosion in every episode and was a little bit bummed out when that wasn't happening as often as it was. Having said that, when the barbershop explodes a second time, we died laughing. Like, they blew it up again.
Sometimes they'll shake it up and they'll flip an ambulance. Most of the time, a building will blow up.
There's no way in the second season that we don't see the barbershop blow up a third time. Like that place has to keep getting hit. It's like the Free State Hotel in Lawrence, Kansas. It's gonna keep getting set on fire.
Joke on me again.
So it's a Civil War thing where it's not the Free State Hotel. What is that place called? It's been too long since I've studied that. It's not important. Let's move on. Anyway, it's Quantrill's raid. Quantrill sets it on fire, and it had been set on fire before maybe it gets. I forget. Anyway, whatever. It's been a while since I studied local history for my high school. So, where else do we want to go? So Rasco, how did you feel about Diamondback?
Diamondback. Okay, so what my issue is, I don't know how much the public knows about Diamondback, and that's why I have a big issue with the fight at the end, because I actually like the street brawl idea, but it feels like no one there really knows who he is, like has any clue about this Diamondback guy. He's just kind of there, and so like it feels like this really impactful moment for Luke Cage to win this fight in front of everybody, but at the same time, I don't think that they really understand any of the emotional stakes.
They don't know what the stakes are. Yeah, it was really Rocky V, right?
Yeah, no, it was exactly like Rocky V, and that's why I don't have an issue with them doing the street brawl thing, but
I was waiting
I just
for
don't know
punch
if you would know
and say, "See me," like in Rocky V.
Cottonmouth is such a fascinating character. He's such a tragic character. I find myself caring a lot about that guy. And Rasco, I'm with you from what you said earlier. In the moment, it certainly, and that's why I was asking the question, because I'm on the fence about it. I don't know that the problem is that we killed Cottonmouth. A lot of people in the comments are saying the show should have ended there. I think we talked about how it could have ended there. Maybe that's where you stop and you get a second season. Maybe we could. I mean, I don't want to say pad things out, but could there have maybe been a couple more episodes in the interim where we do more of, where we find a way to work in, and I'm saying this obviously retroactively, finding a way to work in some of the origin stuff that we get later in going back to the scientist that turns, that makes Luke Cage impenetrable and all of that. If you can find a way to work that stuff in there, this could have been 9 or 10 episodes, and we could have ended with the death of Cottonmouth. But to what Rasco was saying earlier, I really like the idea of and the way it's executed of learning where Cottonmouth comes from just before he dies. I already felt like I kind of understood that guy, and then all this stuff comes together. The music theme is just brilliant, and like I said, really sad that guy really wanted to make more of himself and be something else, and was a great musician. I love that we get to see him play the piano. And just how much of that he's doing, and we saw him do some of that earlier. And like, you don't know how important music is to him while he's just standing up on the balcony watching bands. Mm-hmm. And then when you get that episode and you find out where all of that comes from, it's heart wrenching.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But anyway, somebody jump on anything.
I mean, I don't think that the problem is that, because it feels like when Cottonmouth dies, that is where it needs to happen.
Yeah.
It's not that, but, you know, Rasko was saying how quickly everything happens and how fast-paced it is. That is only until that moment.
Yeah, you're right. The more I think about it, that's fair. It is really... Okay, yeah, never mind.
We have all these, like, cool twists, and we're always surprised by things like, I can't believe they did that, but that stops the moment he dies. We don't keep upping that ante. We don't keep doing all these cool twists and turns where I didn't see that coming. It just kind of stops once Cottonmouth dies, and it feels like I feel like with Jessica Jones, they probably had like a 10, 11 episode show that they stretched to 13 a little bit. Like, it's a little slow in the back half. This feels like they had a 6-episode show. They told in 6 episodes, and then tried to cobble together a whole nother season.
It feels like a show that thinks it's only getting 7, and then suddenly it gets more episodes ordered. But it's not a network show. I mean, it feels like 24, where, you know, Jack Bauer's family gets kidnapped twice because they didn't know what to do with the rest of the episodes they suddenly got. It has that a little bit, and it's not fair. That's not entirely fair. It's more complicated than that. There are obviously some things in that back half that probably need to happen.
Yeah, no, there absolutely are. But so much of it seems like the Diamondback thing, I don't think works at all. I don't buy that this guy, who's a crazy person, is also, like, has enough, like, self-control to wait until Cottonmouth calls him in. Like, the man that we see in the show is not someone that would wait until he was called in. The second he saw Luke Cage on TV, he would show up with his big space gun. Like, I don't buy that guy would wait until Cottonmouth calls him in.
Well, and that's what I'm confused about, and that's why I want to watch it again, because I find myself wondering about the timeline of stuff. I'm not sure exactly when, like, I wondered for a minute if he knew that that Luke Cage and Carl Lucas were the same person, but then we had a conversation where we figured out he kind of had to have.
Yeah, because he knows about Reva's death.
But does that mean that he would know where exactly he was? Like, okay, he knows about Reva's death, but does that mean that he would know about the alias? Well, no, he would have to because... I said alias. He would have to because Luke Cage and Reva they were married, were they not?
Yeah, and he would have no reason to know that she was dead if he didn't know about all of that.
Okay, does that put a little bit of a kink in some things where there's all this talk in the back half about how Luke Cage is, like, not on the grid, and there's one picture of him and all of that, but he got married. Like, where's the marriage license? Like
how he's so clean. He has no history, but he got married.
Actually married. Like, that doesn't mean there was a ceremony with a whole bunch of people there and stuff.
But that's a legally binding contract.
I just thought of that. I don't know.
Well, but I mean, he has the Luke Cage persona. Like, he would certainly be able, if he can, like, create that persona. It stands to reason that he would be able to use that persona to then get a marriage license, especially if it's just like a courthouse wedding. Like, that's just two signatures.
What we're saying is, why couldn't they find any more information of him apart from his driver's license?
When the cops look him up, they don't say, well, he was married. They're like, he's squeaky clean.
Okay.
They can't find anything about him. It's not that they're looking at a Carl Lucas now. It's that they can't find anything on Luke Cage.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
Married.
Yeah. It's not a big deal, but it just suddenly came to me, so, you know, I thought I would mention it. It just those last 7 episodes, or at least 6 episodes, are a little bit of quagmire, somewhat problematic, and there's some. And we'll get into positive stuff here in a minute, because obviously there's lots of it. The beginning of this is amazing, and Luke Cage himself, I should say, is like one of my new favorite superheroes, just based on this. Yeah. You kept saying you want to go back and read more Luke Cage stuff now.
Yeah. I want to go check out the Luke Cage comics.
He is. I said this on a show the other night. He is one of the best role models for children right now, and he's in a show children can't watch. This guy, and I'm not saying that this should be a kid-friendly show. The things that it's about, it needs to be a mature show. I get that. It's a really poignant show. The commentary on social and politics, political stuff, that stuff needs to be in the kind of show that it's in.
But he's just such a great guy.
But he's such a good person. The responsibility lesson is as strong here as I've ever seen it. I love the dynamic of a guy that can't be hurt until later if there's bullets that can hurt him. But at least early on. And I like this better when it's a smaller street level thing. Yeah, sure, giant explosions, that's fine. It's great to see a show this character-driven that has giant explosions. But I like how... But I like the idea of having a guy who is impenetrable, that can't be hurt, that is just trying to do the right thing, and yet everybody around him, pays the price for his attempted heroics. And it's that Batman thing where you're fighting the system and the system fights back. All of that was fantastic. He is, just like Captain America, one of the best Supermans that we've had that's not Superman. Marvel's done this twice now. They get Superman, and I don't want to just DC bash, but it's so sad that right now DC in the movies, they don't seem to really understand Superman, and Marvel's given us 2 different packages of Superman. Luke Cage is, I'm all over the place. Luke Cage is Superman and Wolverine at the same time, and I think that is so cool.
That is a combination I never thought I would see.
And his arch nemesis name is Stryker.
That's true.
I really wanted Diamondback at the end to be tied up with chains and be like, "There are no answers that way, Luke Cage."
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
So what were we talking about?
We were talking about Cottonmouth's death and Diamondback and
yeah,
and all the family stuff with Diamondback we need more inklings of that in the first half. I feel like.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about the clunkiness of that second half. Yeah,
even if we didn't have flashbacks and stuff to that, that would be helpful if there was a flashback or 2 of Luke Cage as a young kid with another kid that we don't know who they are yet.
Yeah, that would help a lot.
Luke should talk about how he doesn't like his father, because we get these weird implications of, I don't know where his father is, but like it's almost like that's a story for another time. Like when she's like, well, whatever happened to your father? He should not like his father, and that should be a thing that we seed earlier.
I think so too. That stuff comes out of nowhere, and I have to switch gears so hard. It's really hard to. It's like suddenly shifting from first gear to fourth gear.
Oh, somebody froze. Or we got kicked out. But I can see your Asco, so.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
No, I can see you guys moving now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Sorry if we have technical difficulties again, folks. I've looked into that. I can't figure it out. We may have to stop doing these live. I don't know what the deal is. Anyway, so I just thought you had to switch gears way too much in order to appreciate that family stuff at the end. That was not structured right. I was really impressed with how the show was handling flashbacks at the beginning, and especially before we had a full-blown flashback episode. And the prison episode is one of the best episodes of the show.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Boy, those transitions, man, where you don't know if you're in the present day or the past, and then
the tell is the beard.
The tell is the beard, and and he'll wake up, and because at one point he's laying down in the rubble. And you're like, what's going on? And I'm like, we're back in present day again. And it's seamless. It's so cool. But anyway, I'm surprised I'm saying this, but I think we actually needed more flashbacks to his family. His father should have been cast.
And it needed to be earlier on. That second half feels tacked on because it's not even mentioned at all in the first half.
And I'm only saying that because I didn't ultimately appreciate the dynamic through the performances. I wish we could do that without actually seeing their father. But I think the problem is we see Mama Mabel.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the characters,
and she's built up and talked about, and then we finally
see her. We should have done that with the dad, because they're both. I mean, obviously, they're not both, squeaky clean and well appreciated in the community, because one is a pastor and the other one is a mob boss. But within the mob circle, she's talked about as like can do no wrong, perfect, and obviously the children don't feel that way about it, or at least, they don't feel that way. And so both of those parental figures, kind of move their children to the place they end up going to, and we just need to see him on screen if we're gonna do that parallel.
Maybe instead, because I think the flashback in the last episode is pointless and does nothing. The boxing match flashback, I don't think that's anything.
Mm-hmm.
It should have been. That should have been when we finally see their dad, and he should have been giving a sermon, and we should have seen the two of them. Like, it should have been something that they could take both ways, and you see like Luke Cage like kind of processing it one way and Diamondback processing it another way. Maybe, I don't know, something.
Yeah, you need to see that hypocrisy, because they both create that Cain and Abel dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we go into the Bible stuff, which just feels, on one hand, it feels really redundant and really been there. Oh, he's a crazy person, he must quote the Bible. I mean, they give a backstory for it, but he might as well just be saying nonsense. Like, a lot of the stuff he's saying is completely out of context. Like,
I really thought it was all going to come together. The writing at the beginning of this is flawless.
Yeah.
Those first 6 episodes, I've never seen anything like that. I was jealous of how well written that is. Everybody's got their own voices. People just kept saying things I thought were super quotable and that I wanted to write down, and that felt like only that person would come up with that. Some of the repartee and tete-a-tete was really impressive. Really layered conversations that are about 2 or 3 things at a time. There was not nearly as much of that toward the end.
No, a lot of it's quoting other stuff. I like when Diamondback shows up and he's quoting the Warriors, and then later he has that thing about am I my brother's keeper?
And that's like the second character arc, right? Luke Cage kind of has 2 character arcs.
Well, what I was gonna say is he says I thought that was just something cool for New Jack City. I like the idea that these are characters that watch television. We have conversations about television.
Yeah.
And that's not a thing that we get a lot. Like, I like that sometimes they go to references that people might, would make. I don't know. I think that's a cool thing that they do with the characters, is these characters actually live in the real world and are pop culture savvy.
Ryan Thompson in the comments says it almost feels like there's 2 different showrunners. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we said the same thing. It feels like a show where the creator quit halfway through and somebody else had to finish it out.
There is some argument in the comments. Some people don't agree with this. They think that second half is really good. I
didn't mind the second half. I don't think that Diamondback was handled well, but I love everything with Mariah and her trying to step into her brother's shoes and just kind of floundering and failing miserably. And I think she pulled that off really well. And I was really there for everything that had to do with her and Shades. I think that they did a good job, in my opinion, of kind of.
I think Shades.
Wouldn't that have been? But wouldn't that have been a lot more interesting if we could have seen her without her having to deal with Diamondback?
Yes, true. No, exactly. I don't think
that
Diamondback was handled well at all, but he was seen very sparingly, especially until like the last 2-3 episodes. I feel like they were just kind of keeping him in their back pocket for a while, so he was just sort of this like enigma that I could kind of ignore.
Oh, but I don't agree with that at all.
Really?
Diamondback is a presence.
Yeah, I thought he was there from the moment he shows up. He's like always.
And he's taken everything over, and they've got that scene which I had a tough time buying, where he kills all the other major mob bosses in the city in front of everybody, and now he owns Mariah. And it would have been a lot more interesting to see her in the role that she's in at the end of the series. I mean, at the end of the season
for the back half.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think she had to earn that. I think that she was not in a place that she could have handled that right when Cottonmouth, and she didn't. She handled it extremely poorly. And I think that going through what she went through will make
That's a fair point.
more of a force to be reckoned with, because it would have been a little jarring to have her being sort of the, I say little sister. I don't know who's older of the two of them because they seem like they're pretty much. Is she older? Okay.
She's older because she talks about raising him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we see them in scenes together and they seem like they're pretty much the same age. Like when they're teens.
Yeah, but they talk about how like she's sent off to boarding school and all of that.
Okay. But I just think that she needed to earn her. I don't know. Like I buy Cottonmouth as soon as I see him, just by his like presence of him being able to control all these people, and I don't necessarily with Mariah. And I think that by the end I do, but she had to earn that.
I thought she got kind of less interesting as the show went on.
Yeah.
Because
she got
right
more
before
interesting
she kills,
to me. I was like all about what she was going through near the end.
Well, right before she kills Cottonmouth, we start getting these implications that like she's crazy, like that she's just hiding it, but that like she like yells at like a picture of her mom, like as if it's talking to her, and then all of that goes away, and it's just kind of generic like evil politician. Or at least that's how I felt.
I mean, I guess I just didn't really take much out of that yelling at the picture thing. Like, she's just trying to live up to her mom. I didn't really take that as her going crazy. I feel like she was not dealing well with the fact that she, in a fit of rage, like, killed her cousin, who is essentially her brother. Like,
well, she did that before. That was, like, the first inklings of her being crazy. And then she murdered her cousin. I was like, oh, she's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, I never got crazy vibes from her. I mean, like, nothing that was, like, crazy insane. Like, obviously, she had her moments. She killed somebody. But, like, I never considered her to be, like, I don't know, take her to Arkham sort of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I appreciated and understood where what Eric is calling crazy came from when she kills Cottonmouth, and when we get the flashbacks, where we realize that she got to do what Cottonmouth wanted to, which is go off and be her own person and do something above board. And she wound up crooked anyway. I love that. That's when she's at her most interesting. I kind of feel like she gets lost in the shuffle, honestly, once we get to all the Diamondback stuff. And then it's almost kind of plot driven, where by the end, I hate saying that, but where it's in this show, but where they know what position they want her in by the end, and they're trying to pivot it so like they can get her there. But with Shades, it works better.
But I think he really gets lost in the last couple episodes.
Oh, I thought you just meant and they have a place they want him to go to.
No. I think the relationship those two have when he first starts, like, we're going to do this and this and this, and all of that is really interesting. Then Diamondback shows up. Their relationship is nothing like what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
And then the last couple episodes, he's just kind of in the background.
I do not understand the Diamondback Shades thing.
No.
I'm confused about that. I'm confused about what his relationship was with Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
I don't know what that whole thing was. He's just a gun runner and like this big scary person you don't mess with. It took me a while to realize that he wasn't actually the guy pulling all the strings on everybody. Like, he wasn't controlling everyone. And then he kind of
they act like he's kind of a big mob boss before he shows up.
Well, and I thought, I don't know, again, I need to see it again. I thought the idea was Diamondback or Cottonmouth only puts up with him because he's afraid of Diamondback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Shades.
Yeah.
And it seems like Shades is so close to Diamondback, he is the mouth for Diamondback. He speaks for Diamondback. And then the second Diamondback shows up, it's like they've never met. Like, they're two people adjusting to a new dynamic relationship.
Well, see, that's not... I didn't see it as they've never met. I saw it as they had a dynamic we didn't see. It has shifted dramatically, and I don't understand the relationship because... Well, I know what made it shift to a degree. It's he is so one-track-minded about Luke Cage that he's making mistakes. And Shades has every reason to be upset with him. But Diamondback's like kind of trying to put him in his place. I like that he stands up to him and that he's the only person that's not afraid of him. but I don't really understand where all that comes from. Sorry, go ahead, Rasco.
I was gonna say it comes across like like Shades thinks that he and Diamondback are like closer and similar minded, and then as soon as Cottonmouth's taken out of the equation, when he's like, "You thought I was just gonna like let you take over after Cottonmouth?" Like that's not how it was, and the relationship drastically changes there, and it feels like there were supposed to be maybe scenes where like he seems like, yeah, I work for this guy. This is the guy that my loyalties lie with, and then once he arrives, he's like, I don't really care about you as much as you think I do. In fact, I don't really want you to have any power if you don't have to. And like they don't show that relationship prior, so when it switches, that's actually the first interaction you get between the two of them.
It's almost like that second half is the second part of another show we weren't watching. To a degree, it's really strange. Like it sort of feels like two smaller seasons put together, but they're having to sort of truncate things with that second half because of dynamics we didn't get to see. But it also feels like two kind of two different seasons. It's odd. I was really baffled by that. We were waiting for it to turn back around to be what it was at the beginning, and for us, it never that never.
Well, and I feel like once Diamondback shows up, they keep doing these really easy TV get-outs and get-ins to situations. There's a point where Misty Knight enters an open room like this, like it's a hallway, and then Diamondback's standing here, and she's like, "Oh," like. And we didn't have weird TV things like that before.
Clear your corners. You're a cop.
How about when Diamondback shoots Luke Cage and then he falls into the garbage truck that was like sitting there for like 30 minutes for them to finish that conversation they were having, and then as Luke Cage falls in, he's like, "Okay, time to go." He just starts driving away. I thought that was like it's like didn't even notice that someone just got shot right behind the garbage truck, or maybe he did and he was driving away for some reason. But I thought that was funny.
But yeah, there was a lot of like TV conveniences that I felt started happening in the back half that weren't there in the first half. The first half was way smarter than that.
Hey, Eric King is here.
Hey, King.
Hi, King. How's it going? King is trying to correct us on something. He says, give me 1 second. He says the animosity between Diamondback and Shades stems from Shades aiding in the murder of Cottonmouth. Did he know that happened? Like,
no.
Does Diamondback know exactly how?
Not early on, I don't think. Or he might suspect.
I
but he
can't
doesn't know.
I honestly
and he didn't
don't
aid in the murder of Cottonmouth at all. He just aids in the cleanup.
Exactly.
He aids in the cover-up of it.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That's what I thought.
Well, wait.
Oh, King says he doesn't eat steak anymore. That's sad. I'm sorry. What?
No, never mind. I'm just processing things in my brain. Don't mind me.
There is a lot going on in this. Like I said, I don't even feel comfortable talking about it right now until I've seen it another time. But it was time to do the Spoilercast, so here we are. We're going to do our
What about does anybody have anything to say? We haven't really touched on Misty.
Yeah, that's
Claire.
just where I was about to go. Mm-hmm.
Actually, before we get away from all of this, can I just say I think Shades' actor is phenomenal, and I wish they'd saved him and had him be Bullseye. I think he would have been perfect for Bullseye. But I'm excited that he's coming back. I'm so glad he made it through this season because I thought he was great.
They keep making you think he might not.
Yeah. I really didn't expect him to make it to the end of the season.
I love some of the the subtle details with him. I love that like how tactical he is and how ready for anything he is. Nothing phases him. Which is why he would have made a great Bullseye. I love the bit in the prison where or at the precinct where he's just sitting there resting up.
Mm-hmm.
There's like little things like that where he's being really smart, doing things like it wouldn't even occur to me that you would want to do, where he's not letting all that fluster him. He's gonna do what he's got to in order to survive all of that.
Mm-hmm.
and try to get out of it. He's one of those like bad guys you love to hate but kind of love to love also, because like there's some endearing things about him, even though
as he puts it about Mariah.
Yes. I love that he just comes out and characterizes her the way the show wants us to see her. That's really funny. But anyway, so getting into Misty and I'll tack Claire into this part. Halfway through, I said, if you gave either of those two ladies their own TV show, they deserve it. Like either of them could totally hold their own for their own show.
Yeah. No, there could be a Misty Knight show, and
and then when they have to do stuff together, I'm like, no, screw it. Give them a show together. Like,
give a show to Foggy Nelson, Misty, Night Nurse. Yes, that's what we need.
the sidekick team up show,
and whatever not Miss Marvel is in Jessica Jones.
Mm-hmm.
What's her name?
Oh, Trish.
I can't remember what her name is.
Trish. Yeah. Who has
Trish.
a cameo? Her voice has a cameo.
Yeah,
that was cool.
That was awesome.
That was cool.
I think Misty is great from like scene one. I think she's as an actress phenomenal. And as a character, really interesting.
I like her more than I've ever liked her.
Yeah,
I mean that character.
Yeah. And they set up her getting a robot arm, and then or getting her arm at least amputated, and then they just kind of drop that.
I did not understand that unless it gets infected later or something happens to it later.
But as much as I really don't like the scene where Diamondback doesn't kill her,
I don't understand.
The therapy session that she gets afterwards is one of the best episodes.
Yes,
for her at least.
Yeah.
I thought that whole thing was great, and the guy playing against her did a great job.
Oh yeah. That stuff is amazing. The psychoanalysis bit. That guy was great.
Yeah,
I was really impressed with him and how well he was able to manipulate her to get there, because she keeps going, I know what you're doing, and then she gets him there. She gets him to break.
I think
he gets her there to break down.
I think casting wise, there's no misses, and even Diamondback, nothing that's wrong with that character is that actor. He's doing he's doing a great job with the material he's given. And
that guy should have been Chapel, a Spawn movie. Can I just tack that on there?
Well, he was Chapel. He was just in a Luke Cage show.
That's true. He was Chapel. He's the guy who murders Al Simmons, and then later we retcon it and make it Priest. But that's who that is.
But no, I thought Misty was.
He should have had a skull face.
I thought some of these characters or some of these actors and some of the way that things are written, they carry off lines that I don't think anyone, not no one else could carry out, but not just anyone. Mm-hmm. We were talking before. Luke Cage has that speech about Harlem at the end.
Yeah,
that I think is wonderful. I think it's a little maybe cheesy and on the nose as written, but he delivers it with such passion.
That's what I thought.
And Misty has that with a lot of the talk about the old days with a lot with Pop. Mm-hmm. I think in the Mouth of Another Actress, some of that stuff could have been a little cheesy, but she's able to sell it like incredibly.
Yeah, that thing with Luke Cage at the end, I agree. It does. I actually like that it comes across kind of cheesy because that's what it feels like. It feels like Luke Cage is this like responsible older guy that everyone has one of those guys in their community, and he's the kind of guy that will stand on the soapbox and just lecture people about how to be better. And that is cheesy, but I actually really like that about his character. I think that's really because that's not the only time that's happened, and there are multiple times where Luke Cage will kind of stand on the soapbox, and I think that's really funny.
Well, I think that has a lot.
Well, you're right. They ultimately.
Sorry. I think that has a lot to do with him filling Pop's shoes. That he's going into it knowing that he's lost his father figure, and the entire neighborhood has. And at first, it seems like he's more just doing it to like remind people that Pop existed. But by the end of the show, he's just sort of taken on that mantle of being the like. I feel like he's not old enough to be like a father figure, but like the older brother figure to the town/city.
He's become the Rocky Balboa of Harlem.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Pop is kind of his Mickey then, if we're going to go with that analogy. He's, and he really becomes his father figure. I'm impressed with how much...
Diamondback is Polly.
Luke Cage.
That character makes way more sense if I think of him as Polly.
Luke Cage, the equivalent of his accidentally getting rid of his fortune is I sent you to prison. No, well, you threw me off with that.
Sorry.
I know you're fine. I like how impressively, this feels like a beginning for Luke Cage when he was a major supporting character for Jessica Jones. He hasn't entirely found himself and figured out who he is after he changes his name to Luke Cage and does the whole "my old self is dead now" thing, where he certainly has values and he has and he has a conscience. But he needs Pop. I mean, that's a really important figure in his life, and I am incredibly impressed that 2 episodes. I mean, he dies in 2. I couldn't believe
which
that.
is so insane.
Could not
he has
believe
so much
they kill him
presence,
off.
and he feels like he's throughout the whole show.
Yeah, that was and that was a really smart move. The way that plays, it was gutsy, certainly. And when he dies, that's where Luke Cage kind of already completes his first character arc, where he's got to go do something about what has happened to the streets, and like live up to Pop's example. I also love that Pop came from a really dark place. The idea that that name didn't start as an endearing father figure thing, but that's the sound his fist made when he punched people.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I love when Cottonmouth brings it up at the funeral.
Yeah.
And like it's in poor taste. He's like I don't know if you all remember, but he got that name because that's the sound his fist made when he hit people, and like that it's like,
and he plays that like it's endearing.
Ooh, that funeral scene. Sorry
guy.
to sidetrack, but that funeral scene was
it's great.
Amazing. Like just the mental standoff between those two. Sorry.
I love that we get a sparring match between speeches like that.
Yeah.
And that's Luke's best speech. I didn't expect Luke Cage to be a speechy character. He's got great speeches. Jessica Jones, Daredevil, these are not characters that give speeches. Luke Cage gives speeches, and they're great. And I mean, he should be a lecturer, and he deserves it. He's that role model. He always does the right thing.
Does anybody think, I think you can watch this without Jessica Jones. I don't think Jessica Jones is a prerequisite for this series.
Yeah, I do, but I'm also impressed with all the continuity stuff, and I think that they're doing a great job building on these things where it feels just like some of the Marvel movies have. It feels like, Marvel, Netflix, whatever, season 4. I mean, I also didn't jump around a little bit, but this piggybacks off that. I didn't expect Claire to be one of the major recurring supporting characters in this show.
At least in the back half.
Yeah.
And she also, even though she doesn't come in until like episode 8, she feels like she's been there the whole time.
Since she goes to get lessons, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but she goes to get karate lessons at the end, and that's clearly a setup for Iron Fist. The place she goes, we paused it to see what the name was.
It's Colleen Wig. She's an Iron Fist character.
And so that makes me think that she might be in every episode of Iron Fist. She might just be one of the main characters in that show.
Doesn't she historically have a relationship with Iron Fist? I feel like I heard that somewhere. Yeah.
Claire, not
the No. Misty Knight does. Misty Knight
okay. That's where I'm confusing
Iron Fist's main girlfriend.
Yeah. Never mind.
It's actually a little strange.
That's all right.
It's actually a little strange that she's in this because she's an Iron Fist character before she's a Luke Cage character. I would assume too. I assume Misty Knight will show up in Iron Fist. She and Iron Fist are kind of like Green Arrow, Black Canary, Hawkeye, Mockingbird.
It'd be really cool if they found a way, without losing their central protagonist, to rope in 1 or 2 supporting characters from each of those shows to make that the big tie-in point to then get to Defenders. It'd be cool if somebody from Daredevil was there, somebody from Jessica Jones was there.
Although talking about continuity and building on things,
yes, I know what you're about to bring up. The Harlem thing.
No.
But we got to do that.
That's a good thing. That's what needs to be brought. No, one of the things that I don't like is how kind of simply I think this show erases the sins of Jessica Jones, Luke Cage's wife. I think we really easily just kind of go, well, his wife was kind of a bad person, so she's over here, and now it's going to be okay for Luke and Jessica to be together later. I feel like we really easily did that. Maybe too easily.
I didn't get that that's where they were going with that. I mean, I didn't get that vibe. Like, I almost didn't even really think about Jessica Jones this entire time. But I don't know. I didn't feel like...
Oh, I certainly did because of all the stuff with Reva.
But I didn't...
It's hard not to think, and that's who killed her.
I didn't feel like I didn't feel like the point of showing her background was to make it so that Luke could get over her. Or anything like that.
But he does at the end. It just seemed really easy. Where he's like, I was in love with the idea of her. I don't love her anymore.
I felt like that kind of came out of nowhere. There wasn't, or not nowhere, but there wasn't enough time for him to, let that stuff settle and to digest it. I didn't think, and also, I didn't think the whole, I love the idea of her, but she was a different person. I don't think she was a totally different person. I mean,
I'm not sure.
She's certainly, maybe I'm just not understanding because I didn't get to see it, but but she definitely cared about him.
And I kind of wish we didn't go there. I wish she had been innocent. I don't know why we need to be like, and she was in on the conspiracies.
Yeah, except I thought from the beginning she probably had to be.
I know, but I don't know why we had to go there. She could have just been, ex-wife. Like, I don't know why we had to do that.
Well, and you remember my theory,
Jessica Jones thing.
So that when later on we try to put them back together, which I'm sure they'll do. Jessica Jones and Luke Cage in the comics they're married. That way. Now he doesn't have as much of a reason to be upset with her about.
Yeah. That's
and of course he's kind of gotten over that, but
yeah, it seemed easy.
Honestly, I kind of agree with you. Somebody in the comments mentioned that Matt, from something I said earlier, that Matt Murdock gives speeches in court. Yeah, and he's also got that really long speech to the Punisher on the roof. That's true. I guess he is more speechy than I'm giving him credit for.
And he's also a lawyer.
Yeah, but I didn't say Matt Murdock. I said Daredevil.
That's true.
But
we're gonna get into semantics here.
Yeah. Well, I'm an English guy. That's where I live. What else? We got about 5 or 10 minutes if we keep this just in an hour.
We've been so negative.
There's a lot
about good things.
There's a bunch of stuff we haven't covered yet. And if we seem super negative, it's just we were surprised by that back half.
And there's so much more to kind of unpack with why it doesn't work.
And that's just been Eric and I have been talking about this a lot. That's just been our conversations lately because we watched the first 6 episodes 2-3 weeks ago.
Well, and it's almost like a gut punch where I think those first 6-7 episodes are almost flawless.
Yeah.
They're brilliant. And then to see it kind of to the end, I didn't think was
I want to argue with Rasco for a second, just in that I don't I don't know Rasco, that the way I would describe the beginning of the show, the first half of the show, is fast paced so much as, again, like command of pacing, deliberate pacing. One of the things I really like about it is that it will allow itself to just sit and live and breathe in a moment. And I have heard some people, like you said, complain that it's a really slow show.
Who are these people?
And they're bored and they need more. I guess they need more stuff exploding and more.
There are so many things exploding in this show.
Yeah, and it all comes from real character decisions that moves our story along.
What was it that we said while we were watching it? Like, this is a show with smart explosions?
Yeah, so that's what I said. Smart explosions, right. It's got explosions, but they're smart ones. But it feels fast-paced in that it wastes no time, in that it will get to a thing earlier than you would think it does, but that's different than, lickety-split, fast-pacing. It's Breaking Bad like that, right? Like, you'll have an episode that is 4 scenes, 3 scenes in total.
But 3 buildings blow up in those 4 scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the same building will blow up even another time. Was anybody else wondering ultimately what the barbershop will be? And of course, we don't get to find out. I really expected that to be a big payoff at the end. I was a little bit disappointed
the
that
fact
we didn't
that's
get to do
not
that.
At the end of this, I will almost put money on it being Heroes for Hire at this point.
Yeah, I didn't agree with you on that until they blew it up a second time, because obviously it's supposed to be a public place. It's supposed to be kind of, I kept comparing it to Caritas and Angel, where they keep calling it Switzerland, where it's the neutral ground, and it's the peaceful place. It's where the people who still have some kind of standards are keeping those safe and sacred in that building, and it's the only place. We're saying something with blowing that up twice, and that's really sad. But I don't think it's a cynical show. It's just I would be a little bit disappointed if that wasn't still what that place represented.
Well, and Luke says something about how, I think it's Luke. It might be the chess guy, who's also great.
He's amazing.
It's one of them. They have a conversation, and it's near the end, because we hadn't seen Pops for a couple of episodes, and it's near the end where he's like, this should be a place that people can come and feel safe and get help. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be Heroes for Hire. Like, that's really where I was like, I think that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I just thought it was so important that it was a public place. But we knew it couldn't be a barbershop, because there was all that talk about how nobody they know knows how to cut hair.
Did we talk about the theme or the intro for the show, I guess?
No.
Because I think we've always talked about that with Jessica Jones and Daredevil, because those all have awesome intros.
This was my least favorite of the three themes. I mean, I like all of them, but it was my least favorite. With the other two shows, I was always like, yeah, I like this theme, and I would take note of it, but I noticed myself, especially near the end of the show, and maybe this just has to do with the second half dragging a little bit, but I started to get annoyed with the theme. I was like, oh my gosh, just start the episode already, and I'm not like that with the other two shows.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's weird, because I had the exact same thing with this that I had with Jessica Jones, where at first I felt that way, then it really grew on me, and I love it now. And I have that with all three of them.
I love Luke's cage. I love that Luke's body is made out of Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the symbolism of that.
It's awesome.
I think I'm with Lo in that I think the theme is weaker than some of the score that keeps coming back. Luke Cage has this, and I'm not saying this should have been the intro, but Luke Cage has this fantastic music that accompanies him every time he's in an action scene. When he goes into the building to destroy all the weapons and everything at the beginning, we've got it. Anytime he's throwing guys up against the wall, and that's kind of where they take the most advantage of the kind of blaxploitation sound and feel. I think is in those bits.
It's really 70s. I love the score for this. If we have not said that, I know we talked about the actual live music and stuff like that, the score is phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's impressive. Also, the variety of music, the gambit of the sound of this, and that it has so much of its own unique tone with all that. It doesn't sound contradictory. In an episode, we will jump all over the place with different kinds of sound.
We'll do blues and then hip hop and then jazz and then rap.
And sometimes mix all that stuff together. But it was impressive, because other things I've seen that try to do that, I'll be like, your sound is all over the place. I can't get a sense of the tone that you're going for. This did not have that, which helped to make it feel really fresh. Sorry, go ahead, Rascal.
I was gonna say I don't know if this is true, but I kept noticing that towards some of the episodes, there's always this same music cue that would play, and I just was wondering if it's in every episode, because at the ending of a lot of episodes, there's this one little cue of music that always plays. It was really cool. There's great music in this show.
Yeah, I'm not a guy that ever notices music, and I don't notice music unless it's really bad or really stand out. 2 episodes in, I was like, oh, this is amazing.
With this, how could you not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, guys, why don't we go ahead and each throw out maybe one more topic of conversation that we want to make sure that we hit before we end here. I feel like there's a million things we haven't covered. Boy, an hour is just not enough time for this.
It's 13 hours long.
Yeah, that's a good point. Laura Rasco, what do you guys jump in and just give me something else that you want to make sure that we hit?
I don't have anything that I want to make sure that we in depth discuss. I just need to give a quick shout out to the plot with Candace and her kind of being coerced into being a witness and then ending up being killed and all that. I don't know. I really liked that whole plot, and I guess also part of just the fact that I loved Misty and I thought she was great. And since that was a lot of Misty's plot, was keeping her safe and eventually failing at that. But yeah, I don't know. I just really like that whole plot, and I just wanted to throw that out there. And nobody has anything to say. Cool.
Sorry.
So Rasco.
I'm sorry.
Something much more interesting than I just did.
No, I apologize. Somebody feel free to jump. I had to deal with something in the comments and was not even paying attention. I have no idea what you were just talking about.
She was talking about the whole plot with the girl in the club that outs Luke Cage.
And I was ultimately really impressed with that. I didn't like it at first, and then it got really interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it ended up being slightly smarter than with the cinematic language kind of a thing, where we see Misty lose her phone, and then we see Candace on the street, texting and be like, "Where are you, Misty?" And then it trusts you to understand that Shades got the phone and was texting her and telling her, that is the only reason that she would leave that apartment. I thought it was really smartly done.
Yeah, and because it was seeded so early, it doesn't feel like... Because it was seeded so early, it doesn't feel like it was... It was too contrived as a reason to make her start to think maybe she doesn't want to be a cop and she's going to have to do this more under the radar. Because I think that's what they're setting up.
Yeah, and when she has a speech about that.
Yeah, it's kind of that Dark Knight Rises thing, but I think it's handled better than that.
Well, and tied into that plot line, I really like the commissioner, chief of police lady, who the first time we see her, she's just kind of sucking up to Mariah. And by the end of it, she's a real strong character.
I did not expect her to get fleshed out like that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Also,
you're right. She seemed like somebody that was just there for us to not like.
The guy with the glasses who kind of replaced her partner after he died off and became a little bit more of a presence. That guy was a small role, but I liked that guy. I thought he was pretty good. And it reminded me of the guy who kind of replaced Ben Urich on Daredevil, because he also had a small role, but then kind of stepped up when Ben was taken out of the picture. And it was really weird because I've noticed that they really make sure that all of their extras, they're on point. There's no Spider-Man 2, one poor soul trapped on the 4th floor. We couldn't get her. There's none of that stuff.
I wanted to talk for a second about the ending and doing a thing that the other shows have not done, which is setting up the second season. I was a little bit surprised that we went there the way we did, partly because we know we're going to see Luke Cage again in Defenders before he gets a second season, and partly because I feel like we had to stretch to make that second half work. But I also thought it was weird because I feel like I've got to be missing something. We talked about this. I feel like I must be not understanding how things work. If Luke Cage has evidence that he was innocent of the crime that got him thrown in prison in the first place, why would he have to go back?
I think it's because he escaped from prison.
Okay, but if you're proven innocent,
there'd be another trial for that.
And you shouldn't have been spending any of that time in the first place. So I don't think you'd have to pay the time you missed, right?
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm confused about. Is
that might alter the scenario? Because I think it's because if you're in prison, then the system would want you to think, well, eventually justice will be served to me, and I'll get they don't want I think by breaking out of prison, that in itself creates a issue where he has to serve more time. But I could be.
But that's not the way they talk about it. What's confusing about it is that
Definitely
it
not.
really feels like the cop is like, or whoever it is at the end.
It's, I think, an FBI agent.
Yeah, is like, well, you still owe us time, which implies that it's the time that, like, regardless of the fact that he might be innocent or he might be able to prove his innocence, is you would reopen the case, but you wouldn't immediately throw him back in prison for. You would take him to jail, and he would wait for his trial.
And it feels like there will be.
But Rasco, if the deal is, well, it is illegal to break out of prison, so even if he's innocent, he's not innocent of breaking out of prison. It's like perjury is a crime, even if you didn't actually do the thing that you're on you go to trial for, and you're on this, and then you have to go on the stand. But you'd still have to go to prison for that. But wouldn't there be a trial first?
Well, and it doesn't seem like that is what it is, because we see Pop. Because we say that Luke's innocent, but the actual evidence is what Mariah and Shades have, which is in that folder. And that ending montage where we're putting all the pieces in place, the chess guy finds that folder, which to me says season 2 of Luke Cage or episode 1 of Defenders is going to be Luke in prison, and then we have all these files that's going to get him out. Like we already have the way out of the storyline,
and we set up Matt
takes
Murdock.
all attention away from that.
Like, I could see that show opening with Matt Murdock defending him.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe that's how Defender starts.
That's what I'm saying.
I
could see Defender starting that way. So I wasn't sure I bought that he actually had to go back to prison like that. If I did, it's a cool way to end the show.
Yeah, it just felt a little contrived, but so much of the second half felt contrived. I think maybe it would feel less contrived if it wasn't like on top of all the Diamondback stuff.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know.
I want to talk about Turk and how Turk continues to be one of the best things in the Netflix shows.
An integral character. The backbone.
You all are crazy. I'm going back to Hell's Kitchen where it's safe.
Is Turk Agent Coulson? Is he the Coulson of the Defenders?
Yes. Yes, he's the Coulson of the Defenders.
Well, I mean, obviously, Night Nurse is that.
Well,
like
don't you put down Turk.
She's a fury.
I'm not
going to put him down. I'm going to put him in a dumpster with baby diapers. That's
there's baby diapers in here. And can we talk about, because I know we spent a lot of time talking about the Diamondback stuff.
Yeah.
How he frames Luke Cage of going up to a guy,
Luke
punching
Cage!
him, and saying,
Was that the same thing that Crossbones had?
Immediately. What's that?
The punchy technology, was that the same stuff that Crossbones had from Civil War?
No, Crossbones is on like a chain. It looks like it's almost like a tank tread that Crossbones has.
Yeah.
No, this was all Hammer tech. I kind of wish Justin Hammer had showed up, which brings up another question that Mariah convinces the cops to buy guns from a gun runner, but they're all Hammer guns, so why wouldn't they buy them from Hammer? Why would they buy them from a mysterious man that's running around the city shooting people? All of that felt really weird and convenient.
Yeah.
And just, again, taking away Sam Rockwell from me. Sam Rockwell should have showed up in this show.
I mean, obviously, you probably weren't going to get that.
I want a short film of Hammer, because he's already in prison. I want him on trial again for everything that happens in Luke Cage.
He's like, look, I'm not my company. Guns. Other people are running my company. No, one thing I wondered was if maybe Hammer was now like an underground company, but then their name is still on everything. And it doesn't seem like that would be smart if you were just a black market group at that point. But yeah, like, why would the cut? These are not you have dirty cops, but overall it's not a fully corrupt police department. They wouldn't be buying drugs or guns off the street like that.
Yeah, that all felt really weird. Really easy.
We also should probably talk about, now that I'm thinking about it, the bullets that can go through Luke Cage and how all that was handled, and the really rough acid burn scene and all of that
and the
stuff.
Finger cut scene.
That was so messed up. That was the most messed up thing. Like, I'm thinking
that
back
has nothing
to, like,
to do with what I'm talking about, except it was violent and hard to watch and made me do this. Why are you bringing that up right now? This was the show, because these shows have been a little bit too rough for my wife, so I've been able to get her to watch them past the first couple episodes of Daredevil. 6 episodes in, I was like, this might be the one. There's obviously it's violent, but a lot of stuff is off screen. You get that first episode with Cottonmouth hitting the guy and the blood comes out his face and stuff. I was like, maybe
it's off screen.
And that's what I said. And then the finger. And then I was like, nope, can't show this to my wife.
Well, with the acid bath, I made this point while we were watching it, or maybe it was right after the episode. The thing that I love about the acid bath, the thing that makes that work so well and work better than I've ever seen anything like that ever work before, is that Luke Cage is a silent guy, and even in prison, he never breaks, he never yells.
Yeah.
So when he goes in and he just starts screaming, it's the most horrifying thing.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and that is textbook how to do that. We have so many really melodramatic TV shows that just have characters scream at each other, and we call that drama. You gotta build to that kind of thing. That's also why you shouldn't have an F-bomb every 3 words in anything, generally speaking. You know, because it's more impactful. When, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just want to talk about the finger being cut off thing. That's
I just want to get everyone to do this.
So do you guys because like I like both sides of this where Luke Cage is because we're doing that thing where we're proving how you do a Superman story and make it compelling and make him a relatable character where yeah, he's indestructible, but the people around him that he cares about are not, and he's going to feel really bad if he is even indirectly responsible for anybody getting hurt around him. And so there's a wonderful internal conflict there, of course. What is the right thing to do when you can walk into a building with, you know, a million guns firing and nothing happens to you, but there's all the people around you? What do you do? But I also like the fact that he has to face his own mortality. And then, of course, it's kind of fun that we find out that he's like Wolverine, where he might never die, or it might take a much longer time, and all of that stuff. What do you guys think about that, though, moving forward, where now we either have a way to solve that problem if people find other bullets or something else that will penetrate his skin where they can kill him, or with, because I'm not sure which it is. It's either that or it's the scientist guy is dead, so we can't do that.
He's not dead.
Oh no, he's not dead. He's not dead.
He's making dying back into Luke Cage. So
like, do we just do that again? Like, how do we make that? How would we make that a dramatic thing again, where he gets shot? We know
I'd imagine that moving forward, we do bring in some more superpowered people that can actually fight him. I would imagine that's.
I feel like if we keep using those guns too much, or that technology, it runs the risk of kind of becoming kryptonite, in that like nothing can hurt him except for this special technology that now everybody has for some reason.
And we made it finite in the first place. We said there's only this many bullets.
Yeah. So I think it works well on occasion, but yeah, you need to deal in some other things like other superpowered people that can hurt him just because they are also very strong.
Next season will be completely different. It'll be bullets made out of Ultron.
Yeah,
I love where every movie that happened between then and now, because we know this is set, you know, a few months or a year or something after Avengers, it introduced something that could kill Luke Cage. But
Ultron bullets that'll make you philosophize and think about life.
I like that'll
brain bullets
that make you question what's more important, freedom or security. And they're bullets, so that's amusing. I really like that the moment we learn just how far Mariah will go. Because, of course, she really seems to be tiptoeing between the two worlds before, where she knows what her brother's doing, but she's not going to tell anybody about it. But maybe she wouldn't go that far. She's not, a killer or capable of that herself. The moment she says, "Has it occurred to you to try to drown him?" That's when we learn how far she'll go. And
he's like, "There's no way to kill him. You can't."
I can't believe I didn't think of that. And she just goes down a laundry list of things where she's like, well, he like breathes air, yeah? I loved that. And I kind of thought that's where we're going to go. I thought he was going to be like, oh, all we got to do is get him in a tank. I'm an idiot. What was I thinking? So I'm thinking maybe down the road, that's where we go. We don't have to do the bullet thing. We try to drown him or
suffocate him.
Now, fire was weird. She goes, fire. I'm like, why would fire affect the skin more than anything else? Like,
I think she was just spitballing, though. Here are other ways than bullets to murder someone.
She ran out of she ran out of believable, but she leads with drowning, which makes me immediately think that she's the smartest person in the show, because I didn't think of that, and that made me feel really stupid. And then she goes fire, and I'm like, okay, so you're just saying things.
Water, fire, earth, water,
Captain Planet.
You know, go Planet. Captain Planet. Captain Planet is the definitive Luke Cage killer.
That's villain of next season.
The #1 killer of Luke Cage's is Captain Planet.
Yeah. 93% of all Luke Cages are killed by Captain Planet. Okay. Anyway, anything else anybody want to talk about? Did you throw a thing out?
Yeah. I
Okay.
I guess maybe I'll do like my closing statements of.
We'll do that in a second.
Okay.
We'll do that in a second.
I have no more.
Because I had a couple other little things that I have to mention real quick. Sorry, one second. So Sam Carnaja in the comments. I'm going to mention this earlier. You and I were talking about it. This is why I'm mentioning it now. How is no one talking about the Incredible Hulk taking place in Harlem?
Yes. Yeah, because Mariah has this big speech, at least 2, every time she's in front of a camera. After a certain point, she's like, "Superheroes are so dangerous, and we have them. You have this girl, and she killed that man." And like I was like, why is no one bringing up the fact that there was a giant green guy that ruined this entire district merely 2 years ago?
Especially because the aliens destroying Hell's Kitchen is the reason Hell's Kitchen is a scary place now.
Mm-hmm.
And this has just made Harlem remain a scary place.
Yeah. And we were waiting from the beginning for like a reference to the Hulk, but then as that became like Mariah's platform that she's politically running on is like anti-supers, how do you never bring up the giant green man that destroyed your town?
Yeah. I also thought, this is a side note, I thought the show was a lot more compelling and effective when it wasn't getting too much into the superpowered people talk and all of that. I thought just having Luke Cage being the one supernatural element, besides, alien bullets, but like the main supernatural element, but making it a show that more or less feels like it takes place in our real world, dealing with some really heavy current, racial and political issues. Once we get to that stuff, I think some of that gets murky and lost in the shuffle a little bit.
And I think it kind of, because Mariah starts kind of merging the racial issues with the super issues, and I don't think that ever gels. I think it should have just been about Luke Cage being a black guy. It didn't need to be the superhero thing. I felt like that made that whole thing mixing metaphor and literal at the same time, and I wish it was just about Luke Cage being a black guy as opposed to, well, there's all these superpowered people, and we can't tell them apart from us. Like, that felt weird.
I didn't think we needed to go there. Yeah. Supergirl's doing the same thing right now. This did it better, but that's somewhat problematic. Carl Maxey also just wrote Swear Jar. I meant to bring up the Swear Jar.
Oh, yeah.
That is the one of the best symbols of the thing I've seen in a long time. It keeps coming back. It's weird that it doesn't come back much at the end. But yeah, I memean that we don't even need to really talk about what it's about. It's obvious that, like you said, it's about standards. But I really liked that it kept coming back and kept reminding Luke Cage what Pop taught him and what he's all about. That it's almost like, okay, this is going to sound stupid and corny, but it's Luke Cage, so I feel like I can go to a corny place. The Swear Jar, at least as a symbol, is almost like his Captain America shield, where Captain America has, with his uniform and a shield, this constant reminder of what he stands for.
Well, and it's not that Luke Cage doesn't swear. It's when he's in Pop's shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there is a very, very specific, this is the place you, like, it's almost the Clark Kent Superman thing if you go with the idea that Superman is almost a character he puts on.
Yeah.
That when he is there, he is always, that's where people are going to see him, and he has to be, this level.
Well, it's the perfect symbol of people aren't perfect and we can always be better. I mean, that's the point of it, is that, yes, he swears sometimes, but he doesn't think that he should. He can be better than that. And so putting the money in the Swear Jar is reminding yourself, I can do better than that. Mm. And you keep trying to improve yourself. And I think Luke Cage's character is all about self-improvement.
Yeah.
And self-improvement, and then hoping that trickles out
Yeah,
and people will notice it.
Fixing communities as well. Like that's one of the things I liked about this is it like if we're doing these little small pocket type, almost like little tiny worlds in themselves, it makes a lot of sense to do like a whole show kind of about the idea of like community betterment and self betterment. I think that's really cool. That's probably one of my favorite things about the show, honestly.
Well, an actual community betterment versus what Mariah's trying to do at the beginning, where it's just kind of a big dog and pony show. Of look, it's going to be better. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah,
and then when that reporter gets her and she's like, "Okay, but which Harlem are you talking about? There is this one you're showing us, but then there's all of this stuff too."
Yeah, and I love.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Cap. Go ahead.
I was just some of the comments just wrote. Are we just going to ignore that Cap just said language?
I was gonna say that I also just love though in Luke's speech at the when after Cottonmouth gives his speech and then Luke goes up. I love that part where he's like, you have to be like observant of people that are carrying this flag of trying to help the community, but they're really not. They just want you to, I guess, back them or just trust them, but they don't actually want to better your community. And I really like that part because you have that with multiple characters that are standing up and saying, "Oh, I'm a representative of this community, and I want to better it." And they're really just taking advantage of people that would actually like to see their communities shape up. So that was probably one of the better thematic elements of the entire show.
That Dope Channel asked this question. What do you guys think of Luke Cage having a hard stance against use of the N-word? I don't remember him even... Is that there? I forgot about that.
The episode where Pops dies.
Uh-huh.
The guy puts the gun to the back of his head.
When he has the headphones and he takes them out and turns around and talks to him.
And he goes, "Why would you use that word in the
Oh yeah, again, that's like the second or third episode. It's been a while. Yes.
Yeah.
That scene was amazing.
I think it made perfect sense for his character.
Yeah.
That he would be against that.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
It's demeaning. He doesn't like to look at things too much through a racial lens, and I don't mind that. We talked about this, and the more I think about it, the more I like it. I don't mind that he's talking about Harlem at the end as this great. What's the word I'm looking for? Like tribute to.
He says it's supposed to be a beacon to the world.
A beacon, thank you. Yeah. I just couldn't think of the word. For black art and that kind of thing. That's talking about a specific culture, and it's not just about black culture, it's about Harlem culture. It's about the community that he's in and that he's grown up in. But I don't think that he. But I don't think that he looks at things too much through a racial lens.
Well, he does a little bit with, all the books he's talking about, those are all black authors. It's black crime fiction, a lot of detectives.
That's
and
true.
crime thrillers.
There's a heritage.
The music. He's very much a part of that. I don't know if he looks at everything through a racial lens.
Yeah, he's a part. I just mean that he doesn't. It makes sense that he wouldn't like that word, and that
no, absolutely.
He
doesn't have like a problem with the word. In fact,
that's a part of the culture he doesn't like.
He literally uses that word in that scene where the guy puts the gun up to his head. He turns around and he says the word, and he says, "Pull the trigger," and then he says it to that guy. So he doesn't have like an issue with the word. I think what it is it's that when I say I don't like to be called that, I would like that to be respected. And it's just like the idea behind it. I don't have to be called something, or people shouldn't call me something that I don't want to be known by. And
I didn't realize that. I took it as he didn't like the word.
Oh, really? Because he actually uses it to that guy, and then
I know, but I think he was making a point about it.
It's not a thing. It felt really like just a personal thing for him, where it's like, I understand that this is how we use this word, but when I don't want to be called that, that should be respected.
But that's not what he says. He says, "Why would you use that word in front of a monument to one of our greatest heroes?" It has nothing to do with him. It's about the word. At least that's how I read it.
Well, he says later on in the episode, too, someone says, "What kind of blank are you?" And he says, "The kind of blank they don't like be called a blank." So, it is for him, he says that multiple times that like he just doesn't like to be called that. He says that in the prison episode.
Yeah, I think the idea is probably I do not embody what that word has come to mean. And so if he says it, because I didn't remember that he said it today, if he says it to that guy, it's probably you are making yourself what you're calling me by calling me that. Mm-hmm. That Dope Channel is elaborating on what he was asking and says, but do you guys think it was a smart decision for the show to take such a critical stance one way or the other when the show is being used to convey black life to a demographic that might not be in tune?
I don't think the show takes a stance. I think Luke does.
Yeah,
because Cottonmouth and a lot of characters do continue to use that word and use it freely as just a part of their speech.
But of course,
do think
between the two, we're supposed to identify more with and Luke, find Luke, to be heroic.
But point where I think it's weird that we can say that word, but we can't say the F word.
I don't want to get into all that.
Should just be full-blown R at this point.
But I do think it is taking a stance to a degree in that it is saying that there's a lack of standards in some of that culture that needs to change. And that's representative of that. So, I mean, I think it is taking a stance. I don't... It's hard to say because I mean like I'm not in that world, so like I don't understand it one way or the other. I mean like people that would be put off by that because they think that it should be okay to say that in particular context and things like that. I don't have a stake in that. I don't know. I don't know. That's veering into territory that I'm not remotely qualified to talk about. And coughing. Okay, let's go ahead and do final thoughts real quick. So I said an hour. It's longer than an hour. We would have been remiss to end at an hour with all the things that we did not get into. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and start with Lo, because we haven't heard from Lo much in the last few minutes. Lo, any final thoughts? Any pin you want to put in this? Go ahead.
Well, we kind of already did my final thought because I talked about Candace. We've already started final thoughts. Rasco, what's your final thought?
That's what that was. That was any other topic of discussion.
I feel like I've said what I want to say. I think that this show, in my opinion...
Just in conclusion.
In conclusion, I think this show, in my opinion, is the weakest of the Netflix shows so far. But that's just my opinion, and I also still think it's amazing. I don't, by any means, think that this show is bad or anything like that. I just think for my own ranking, I put it at the bottom of the three. But it's like... that's almost like does it a disservice to even think about it that way. But yeah, no, I really liked it. Like I said, I loved the music. I think that was definitely my favorite part. But I'm a big music person, so that's one of the quickest ways to like endear me to something is through music. I thought the acting was amazing. We kind of breezed over it, but I really liked all the stuff with Scarf. I think that was really compelling and like really layered for what it was. Yeah, I liked it overall. Thought it was a great show. Like I said before, I thought the fights were not amazing, but what can you do? That's just me.
DC Stranded says, it's funny seeing y'all white guys talk about the N-word, no lie. I agree.
Yeah. That's why I never threw my hat in the ring, because I feel like I have nothing to say about that being a white person.
Well, I wasn't talking about my personal feelings. I was talking about what I think the show is saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you guys were arguing that.
So talking about why I shouldn't be talking about that.
Yeah. I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, never mind. Never mind. Move on.
Rasco, what are your final thoughts, sir?
Final thoughts. I think that I'm going to have to watch this again, but I do think it's probably safe to say that I would rank this below Daredevil and Jessica Jones, but that's just because I'm more familiar with those. So I doubt that on a second viewing I'll like this as much as I like Daredevil season 1, but it's possible that I do like it almost as much as I like Jessica Jones, which is very, very minutely less than Daredevil, I would say. I really love Jessica Jones, but overall, I really like the show, and I really like how, with all the Netflix shows so far, there's not a single character that I feel like the writers don't care about. And that's just one of the things that I constantly notice with so many other TV shows and movies, is that you'll just find characters that are like, there's no one who is sitting in a room thinking about what that character, or who that character is. And I can just see that in the genericness of who they are in a show. But in these Netflix series, not a single character feels like no one cares about them. And that's what I really like.
They only put the characters there if they have something to do with them. They're not just there to have a character there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if they run out of things to say with that character, they get rid of them.
Or they murder them.
That's a way to get rid of someone.
Or they explode them.
Usually when a bad guy in a thing says get rid of that person, they mean murder.
Is that what that means?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Get rid of them with murder.
Yeah, with murder. Yeah.
All this time.
You need me to spell it out for you? Do you need a postcard?
So many things I've misunderstood.
Have you tried fire? Have you tried drowning? Ian McKee says this is definitely one of the three. What was it he said? It was pretty funny.
He said this is definitely one of the top 3 Marvel Netflix shows.
One of the top 3 Marvel Netflix shows.
Agreed.
I agree.
Agreed.
King just left a comment and says he thinks that this show is better than season 2 of Daredevil. I agree with that.
No, I agree as well.
No doubt. What are your final thoughts?
Okay, so I kind of opened with I think the first half is the strongest of all of the Marvel shows. I think the second half is the weakest of all of the Marvel shows. Talking just about the season 1s. So where that kind of comes out in the wash is I think this is my least favorite of the 3. It's still really good, and even that back half is better than anything else superhero on regular television. Like, nothing comes close to the Marvel Netflix shows in almost an embarrassing level. That when, like, the show is bad and I have all of these things to complain about, it's still an unbelievable quality. So I think it's my least favorite of the 3.
You're surprised that there are holes at all.
Yeah.
6 in, you got none. You're just like, oh, is this a documentary? That guy shot a bazooka! Is this a documentary?
It's one of them, they're Shatner joints. But I really enjoy this show. I really like, especially the first 6 episodes. If on a second watch those back episodes don't work, continue not to work as well, I would have no problem just continuously going back to the first 6 episodes and ending with Cottonmouth going to jail.
You mean dying?
No, going to jail.
Oh, just not even going to that part?
No, because then that begins the next story arc. I think arc 1 ends with him going to prison. Arc 2 ends with him getting out and then being murdered.
You can't just keep repeatedly watching it and not getting the background stuff with the music and all of that.
Yeah,
that's important.
It is important.
Can't do it.
But so I really liked this show. I think the back half is not great. So yeah, I agree with Rasco and Lowe. I think it's the weakest, but I mean it's largely a close race, and they're all great shows.
It may be the weakest, but it sure is strong. Okay,
it's bulletproof.
It's bulletproof.
Bulletproof love.
My final thought is I agree with you guys that this is unfortunately the weakest of the 3 as far as the first seasons go. Because at the beginning, I thought it had, and it did for those first 6 episodes, it achieved a whole new level of storytelling. It's not even just a taste issue. I'm
reading.
It's not just a taste issue. I was in love with that first half and immersed in this world, and I thought it was probably the smartest written thing I'd seen since Daredevil, at least, So I feel bad saying that it's the weakest of the 3 because I did not think that by episode 4. But having said that, Luke Cage is probably one of my favorite heroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point, and really needs to be in one of the movies, especially with his power set.
I want him to have a conversation with Captain America.
Yes,
exactly. We had this conversation. It really feels like and I love Falcon too. But it really feels like he and Falcon are kind of in the wrong places right now. Like Falcon feels like a more like second or third tier character that would have his own show on Netflix, and Luke Cage seems like he would be hanging out with Captain America. But anyway, I would love for him, and even over Daredevil at this point, which I'm surprised to say. I want to see him show up in one of the movies, or maybe even get his own movie. I think it'd be kind of neat, or not get his own movie, but to be. I mean, maybe not that, but to like be with the Avengers for a minute or something. He seems deserving that. He's too good of a role model for kids to not get to see. That's the first thing, and the second thing is he's just too powerful and too big of a force to stay in Harlem.
And since Bendis came in, Luke Cage is a major Avenger. He has led the Avengers for an extended period of time.
You thought it was weird that they wouldn't think to go to Jessica Jones over Spider-Man in Civil War. That's going to get really weird at this point. This is also...
Now I wonder why they went to Ant-Man instead of Luke Cage.
It's also a bit of speculation I keep doing. We got to remember that we are still a few years back. We're still like at least 3 years in the past in the Netflix shows over the current Marvel movies, and so because those keep moving forward, you got to wonder if at some point that's going to really break down where we're not going to buy the stuff that's happening in the past not affecting the stuff that's happening right now, especially when we get into Defenders, depending on how big that is, that no one would have been talking about that. I really think Defenders needs to jump up, jump ahead, get to where we are right now, and I'm wondering if we'll go there. But anyway, that's all I've got. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. And we will see you again with lots more videos here on the channel. Lo and I are not going to be doing Comic Book Late Night tomorrow night because it's Halloween. And everybody have a wonderful and safe and awesome Halloween. I will be trick-or-treating with my kid. One of the reasons you have kids is so that you can go trick-or-treating again. And it's always fun. And I love Halloween. And I'm excited about tomorrow. We'll be back with you again on Sunday for next Sunday, for a brand new episode of Geeks Not Nerds Live, and we'll take some questions from you before that to decide what the topic is going to be, and then the Monday.
Well, next Sunday will be.
No, I'm
Doctor
sorry.
Strange.
Thank you. Next Sunday is Doctor Strange, so look forward to Doctor Strange. Yeah, can you believe that? That's already coming up. So no, not GNN Live, Doctor Strange. Thank you very much. And then the Monday right after that, the very next day, Lo and I will be back with you again for a new Comic Book Late Night. We sure appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much for being here live. Thanks for watching after the fact if you did that. Leave comments. Let us know what you think. I know there's going to be a lot of different conflicting opinions about this show. Looking forward to seeing interesting conversations and debates in the comments. In the meantime, I am Captain Logan. This is Eric.
I'm Eric. Luke Cage!
Luke Cage!
Luke Cage! I'm Luke Cage!
This is Curious Lo.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for showing up.
And Jackson Rasco.
Sour Halloween.
And once again, I was Captain.
Sweet Christmas. Sour Halloween.
I get it.
I did not get it. That's why I was like, what? Thank you.
Once again, I am Captain Logan saying good night. Good night.